There's always that political calculation. That's what this story is all about. Good to have you back with us on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Every time some politician or someone who wants to represent the people sees union workers out there or workers trying to unionize, they run from them. For some reason, it's bad political theater. It's too much of an absolute of what side you're on. You can't dance around it. You can't fence ride it. And it's just, for most people in politics, it's just not a good place to be. That's what's so refreshing about Bernie Sanders. This is a habit for him. Here's the story. Some 40,000 employees, led by the Communication Workers of America and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, they are currently in this major contract battle with Verizon. And they are accusing the telco, this major company, Verizon, of retaliating against workers who were trying to unionize in the workplace. Now, we know how big Verizon is. I'm a customer of Verizon. I'm okay with their service. But you know what I'm not okay with? The way they treat their workers. And the fact is that they've been trying to unionize. And there was a big rally, and they've been walking the picket line for days in New York City. Guess who was with them yesterday? Guess who spoke at a rally? It was Bernie Sanders. Now, this was not on the mainstream media because for some reason, I guess this just isn't a good story. Maybe Verizon just spends too much money with the big boys. But this is what Bernie Sanders had to say at the start.
Middle class in this country is disappearing, and what Verizon is doing to their workers is exactly what has got to be fought if we're going to rebuild the American middle class.
Now, not only does Bernie go around the country talking about the middle class, not only does he support proposals and bring up legislation that will do just that, he walks the walk in front of the cameras and in front of these workers. Larry Cohen joins us, former president, Communication Workers of America, and now, of course, he is with the Bernie Sanders campaign as a surrogate. Larry, good to have you back with us.
My pleasure.
This is the realism that is fueling the Sanders camp. That's what I would say. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. This was in front of the major Verizon Wireless store. The Verizon Wireless workers in Brooklyn organized more than a year ago, can't get a first contract. 39,000 others, as you said, their contract expired over 100 days ago in both CWA and the IBW. And there's Bernie, right in front of the store, saying right to the top management of the company, you have over a $100 billion market cap. The CEO makes $20 million a year, and you're not building out high-speed internet in the rural parts of your footprint. And even in parts of the cities like Buffalo and Binghamton, no high-speed internet, and Baltimore. And, which side are you on, Verizon? We expect a lot better out of the management there. Not afraid to say it. I don't know that another presidential candidate has ever waded into these kinds of battles.
And that's the uniqueness of this. I don't recall any presidential candidate ever wading into the picket line and stepping up and saying stuff like this about a contract. Here it is.
It is not acceptable to me that when workers form a union and negotiate for an entire year, they can't yet get a contract. That's not what democracy is supposed to be about. That's what rotten labor law is about. And we're going to change that. When a union sits down with the company, they are going to negotiate a first contract. And they are not going to fire workers. We know how hard it is all over this country for workers to form a union. We know that employers fire organizers trying to create a union. They know they stall and stall in terms of a first contract. And that is why we have introduced legislation that says you're going to pay a pretty heavy price when you fire a worker trying to organize a work.
I mean, that is going to the mat with the workers, and that is change you can believe in. Labor law, we're going to change it. I mean, this is, you know what? None of that played on any of the mainstream media anywhere yesterday, which I think speaks volumes to how powerful it is. How are workers responding to that? What do you were out there. What do you make of it, Larry?
Yeah, I was there with them, and had the honor of introducing him, actually. Right before him, Bianca Cunningham spoke, who's a Latina woman from one of the Brooklyn regions. She's lead organizer inside. And you had it all in this. And let me say this about Bernie. As remarkable as it is that he said all that, he said it without a single note. He knew the story. He learned the story.
Yeah.
He can do it just because, it's Bernie. This is what he is. And so not only is he the only one who's ever been out there, maybe Jesse Jackson was in 88, I don't know. But certainly for decades, maybe ever. But he also doesn't need to read a speech. There's not even a note in front of him, let alone a teleprompter. And earlier, yesterday, I saw him on The View, totally different, with Whoopi Goldberg, whooping it up. No notes there. And then another meeting, no notes. Everything he says, this is what you see, is the authenticity, because it's him. He doesn't have to practice it. He doesn't have to memorize it. He doesn't have a teleprompter. He stands with working people in this country, and he knows what those fights are because he's been in those fights his entire life.
And he has no problem at all taking it to the CEOs. Here it is.
All over this country, Verizon is a metaphor. You got corporate America making huge profits, their CEOs getting huge compensation packages, and then with all of their money, what they do is hire lawyers in order to make it harder for workers to survive in this country. Workers need decent pay raises. They need decent health care. They need decent pensions.
Well, I just want to ask this question, and I know you're a surrogate for the Sanders campaign, and I know you're a believer in Bernie, and no one has led and fought for workers harder in this country than you, Larry, and you've made a decision that Bernie Sanders should get the nomination and he should be the next president. That being said, where's Hillary? I mean, isn't this what the middle class in this country wants? And would these workers possibly come to a point where they would ask Hillary to step out on the line to see if she would? Because that would get her on record about what she would do for labor law, what she would do for these workers that are threatening the workplace, what she would do to companies that don't do anything for over a year. I mean, I think this really is a benchmark moment in this campaign when it comes to the middle class and workers in this country. I mean, can't every Democratic candidate walk that line the way Bernie is with no notes and take it to the House? Listen to what he said about Wall Street. He connected it to Wall Street.
What this campaign for president is about is saying to corporate America, you cannot get it all. That when worker productivity is skyrocketing, you've got to pay your workers decent wages. You got to respect and negotiate with workers for decent contracts.
You know what? Larry Cohen, we did not hear this audio in 12. We didn't hear it in 08. We didn't hear it in 4. We didn't hear it in 2000. When was the last time we heard this kind of talk?
I don't know if we've ever heard it. And that's why he calls it political revolution. It's from the workplace to the community. It's voting rights. It's get the big money out of politics. He puts it together. And that's what makes him so amazing. And as he said at another meeting I was at today that wasn't a public meeting, at the minimum, because people like to challenge him, he's not going to win. At the minimum, we're building a permanent base that will go to that convention, and I still believe we can win the nomination. But either way, we will carry those values, and we're not going to back down. Yeah. And we're going to demand, as you just said, that Democrats don't talk with us, don't just talk with us, they walk with us. They got to move from talking with us to walking with us, whether it's union workers, whether it's climate change, whether it's student debt. We had enough of the talk.
Yeah.
We need them out there with direct action, showing where they stand.
Well, I'd like to see Hillary Clinton get out there for the good of the party, for the good of the movement, for the good of the middle class. I think that she could do an awful lot. I think that Martin O'Malley could do an awful lot. I mean, where is it just going to be one Democrat that's going to be doing this kind of stuff? I mean, this is the heart and soul of the middle class in this country, fair wages. This election, I'm going to say it 1,000 times on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. This election is about jobs and wages. That's it. And then, of course, you've got Wall Street. Then you've got all the campaign finance reform and all this Citizens United stuff. But when it comes down to workers, those folks who can't get a voice in the workplace, can't get a contract, nothing's more important to them than that. That's the deterioration of the middle class when we allow this kind of garbage to take place in the workplace, and we can't get leaders in the political arena to stand up for these folks the way Bernie did yesterday. I thought it was outstanding. I really do. If this is what Bernie meant in the campaign when he said nobody cares about your damn emails. This is what people on the line. That's how I took it, Larry. Your thoughts?
No, you nailed it. That's exactly what he meant, and he didn't get to finish the sentence, but that's exactly what he meant. And so what we do care about, Hillary, or any other candidate running for office, is which side are you on? Will you walk with us? Will you take on the Wall Street banks? Will you take on a company like Verizon when they're wrong? And when they're right, we should be applauding them. Mm-hmm. But when they're wrong, will you take them on? Or are we supposed to settle that you're neutral and the Republicans want to gut us? Well, you know what? We're fed up with the neutral, and we know they want to gut us. But we are now going to demand that elected officials and people running walk with us and stand with us, whether we're students or environmentalists or union members. They need to walk with us, not just say we're neutral. That makes us better than the other side.
Larry Cohen with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Always the best, my friend. Keep up the fight. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being out there today.
Thank you.